Hey, what's up, everybody? I have another sort of replay here for you guys. This one is between Izmailovski and the not yet formed but now formed Los Bandidos clan. Uh, it is played on Izmailovski's favorite map, Montmirail. We have lost notoriously on this map, I think something like 40 games in a row before finally winning in this season. Um, this game is you'll just have to wait and see if it's the game that we win on. Um, we know pretty much every sort of strategy that there is to take on this game, or at least this map. Um, no, northern push, southern push, both sides, Coalition, Imperial. We've played it so many times, and usually losing by very, very far margins. We tend to try and maybe overthink this strategy a little bit too much in some cases. Uh, in this game, LB is actually the Imperial, so we're going to watch the game from their point of view, and IZ is Coalition. LB has we're playing 1812 cores. It's a low point game, so they brought Victor, Junot, Schwarzenberg, and the Guard. Um, Guard is pretty interesting in 1812 because it's, I guess you could say, more of an infantry corps. Um, Schwarzenberg can bring a balance of L2, L3 Austrians, and then decent enough light cav. Victor, there are a couple different ways to build him. Some people take the what I would call like the Rheinbund division. It's all the German allied state armies, and it has a pretty good decent discount, and you get access to a lot of cav with your money left over, and the infantry base is pretty nice. Um, we have a specific build in mind for Victor in the future, but haven't got to bring it yet. As far as it can be very hit or miss. I think probably one of the most hit or miss cores. Low stars, low morale, some really exceptionally good units, decent amounts of cav. You get basically like one division with 3 cav and I think it's 2 artillery batteries if you build it right. Looks like maybe a little bit different from this one. In the north for us, we have Steinheil. IZ has a particular build that we like with Steinheil if we have our players. In this case, we had a sub, so we just told him to bring whatever he wants. Typically, most clans, I would say, take the reserve division, or at least try to take the reserve division, just because it's a 5-pointer with a lot of mass. We prefer a more flexible Steinheil at the low points, but maybe I'll have a game where we have that in play. And then our other cores are myself as Toutchkov. I brought the L5 Grenadiers and the L5 Jaegers, supported by a little bit of the L4s. And then we had Bagavu bringing up the rear, and this core over here is Dohktorov, the 9-pointer. Bagavu, sorry, not Bagavu. What's the other 8-pointer? Tormossov. Tormossov and Dohktorov were basically like balanced cores. We took 2nd Division Tormossov, and I believe it was full 1st Division of Dohktorov with his dragoons for both. A lot of clans take Tormossov as a cheap cav corps for Russia because he has very cost-effective dragoons. We decided on Montmirail that it maybe wasn't as needed, mostly due to like the large amount of mud fields and these forests that sort of bisect different parts of the map, and then these roadway or waterways that sort of take up a lot of the space. So again, oops, scrolled all the way through the map. I have no idea where I am. So again, the overall concept for us was that we wanted to push this side of the map right off the bat. We tried to signal a stack in the south, which is, I feel like, the traditional movement for Coalition, because you get 3 spawns of armies down here. You get the Le Chrono position and Marché pretty easily if you play it right as Coalition. But we felt that pushing from Fontenelle towards Villa Moyenne could potentially net us a pretty strong position in the long term, and maybe catch a core out. So right now, my army is somewhere around here with horse guns pushing towards Fontenelle. And as you can see, the general direction of the coalition armies is this direction. So they are expecting a traditional push from coalition. And they're leaving Junot kind of dangling on the outer edge. I'll go and fast forward a little bit. Yeah, so the general idea was that we figured a 9-pointer in a low points game that's a very balanced core could handle holding on to our right flank until we needed it, while we stacked up the rest of our points to sort of push this flank. And again, kind of following the IZ principles of attacking somewhere the enemy is not expecting and kind of slowly revealing your hand elsewhere or shaping them. We knew instinctively, I guess you could say almost, that because the traditional movement is towards the south, that a northern push's coalition would maybe catch the enemy off guard. That's kind of the 4D chess, I guess you could say, maneuver from our end, or at least the attempt of it. And some clans you can get away with more or less in terms of trying to like mentally suplex them. So like we put Steinheil in the north to kind of indicate that, you know, that's just a reserve division that's up there. Maybe it's not going to be a main attacking body, but in the end it's actually part of our main attack. So some clans would ignore the 5-pointer or maybe try to rush it. If they had come to meet us in the open field here, then they would be pushing into 3 of our core instead of just Steinheil. So on this flank, you can see Chain is trying to take this road towards us. I believe at some point we said that based on what we see here, it's too close and he needs to come back this way and take the other road. I don't know if we've made that call yet or not. Yeah, there it is right there. Again, also this game, like the other one I just recently cast, was done a couple months ago, so some of the details are a little foggy for me, and I'll do my best to kind of fill in any of the strategic gaps as it goes. Lots of Imperial cav in this sector, including the Lancer Polonais and the Servants. So quite good light cav, especially against what Chain has available to him here. Junot is pulling to hold Fontenelle, and some of my L5s are now visible. So again, we're trying to tell Chain to just, you know, retreat, use the natural terrain to give himself an anchor, so that way we can develop this attack. We didn't want to trade a 9-pointer for nothing. The benefit right now, though, is that if you look here, there's a line of cav, but the infantry is back here. Both of the infantry columns. The only infantry available to support him is part of Victor here, and it's like some of it's okay. So realistically, this is a lot of light cav trying to pressure him. Maybe they pick off a couple assets, but they don't really have anything to follow it up with. And Chain has a lot of squares, or at least some squares, in the first division. The general attack plan here was that Steinheil would come down this road and push through the building, and I would crank through this road and take it. It wasn't, I guess, properly communicated because Steinheil, I believe, stops around the edge of the buildings and doesn't keep going, or he takes like a wide flank. I told him I would send a grenadier to take the house because honestly, it should be pretty easy for me. I just needed his infantry to take the shots, basically. And then somewhere around here is the remainder of Bagaboo's infantry, or not Bagaboo, Tormossov. So catching some units out of square in these forests, but it is a very tired light cav, which makes it kind of hard for it to win in these cases, and this forests on this map are quite slowing. Unit squares in there. Pretty good trade for models, at least on our end. Disrupts Chain's movements. His army's still lagging all the way over here. Cossacks sniping a couple units down. Grenadiers moving in. So Steinheil is moving across this way, but at this point, he could just honestly shift straight and hit the center of Junot. There's no point for him to flank this far. The only unit that would be stopping him is this one in the house, which is, I think, a regular line. So Junot's got decent amounts of guns set up here. Pushing the retreat
to the enemy.
With light cav. You can see more of Steinheil's infantry is here. It needs to just keep moving, basically, in this scenario. And if we look from Imperial's perspective, right, you have Schwarzenberg infantry all the way back here. Guard is over here, pushing that direction, and Victor is in a forest. In order to redeploy, he has to pull himself out of the forest, cross this road, and then get into this other forest to come to Junot. Meanwhile, we're basically like running Junot down. These are just Jaegers pushing along the road. They do have cav to protect the guns and this mud field, which will make it hard for any Russian cav to break through here. And the old guard horse guns just massacred that Russian light cav. So, a couple Russian Dragoons pushing in to try and make something happen here. Unfortunately, it was probably a bridge too far there to try and get that. But it did slow down their guns, at least. And they did suffer some model losses on cav, and hopefully these Dragoons, I believe, come back. Chain has more or less extricated himself. Guard has realized what's going on and shifted off of the road, coming back this direction using this roadway, and Schwarzenberg is slowly starting to arrive. So again, these units here need to not be all the way over there. They need to have been somewhere over here following up. So if you kind of look at our disposition, we're on the deep strike going this way to try and draw them out of position, with the dangling core over here to draw them to pick two different sides they had to defend. Their initial attack was to get this positioning while we're actually trying to get this positioning. You can kind of now see the full size and strength of the Russian army that they're facing. This is my core here. There is parts of the other 8-pointer, Tormossov and Steinheil. All these guys need to do is just walk forward as I walk past, and we trap these cores here. Same with like these units here. Nothing needs to stop moving whenever you're in these types of situations. I'll go and fast forward a little bit more. As you can see, force can sometimes be your friend or your enemy. The problem for the French right now is they can't form up, right? The force is so slowing, and any friendly cav that needs to get through also would get slowed by the forest. Whereas I'm L5's just trying to push into their flank. Again, if all of this was a little bit closer, I don't think this is even a contestable position for the French. Typically, I don't like to do melee and force for that reason right there. Like, pretty egregious FIM. But, you know, I'll still break the units. It's just, those are losses that aren't really that nice to take. And force, unfortunately, cause a lot of FIM to happen for that reason. It stops the charge, so in those situations it can be difficult. At this point, I was trying to get everybody to support me, everything moving forward. There was like a belief that maybe we were pushing too hard. I thought we didn't push hard enough, especially in the situation we were in, where I could see that, you know, Junot's core is the front line with low morale, backed up by a Victor that's not yet deployed, and we had them caught on two sides with all of our infantry here, and two fresh core that should have been, you know, again, if they weren't our subs, they would have been following my army along this road, and then they could have pushed in while I keep circling around into the back. You know, something along those lines. Same with all of our cav assets. We have infantry that's over here that could be at least pressurizing this center, getting them on two different sides, not letting them reinforce one side or the other. All of this in the back, waiting to, you know, push in to attack versus actually moving and assisting. So right off the cuff, I guess you could say the big lesson right now is the flexibility you have when you're playing a clan game with players who aren't typically in your clan. It can make it difficult to make these types of decisive attacks. So in my case, I probably overextended a little bit when I could have kept going down the road with my full army and someone else could have taken my place here. I just felt that with where the enemy was theoretically deployed, because honestly we can't see a lot of the guard ahead of time, and we definitely couldn't see where Schwarzenberg's infantry was. I felt with a Junot front and Victor somewhere behind him and the guard somewhere else, last time we saw him was over there, that we could break through here decisively when we had 3 core, and Chain's core is somewhere around here. So Dohktorov has arrived. We have all of Tormossov available and all of Steinheil with, you know, enough mass to just overwhelm this position. But now we've kind of traded downwards. A lot of this survives or rallies, which comes in handy for the coalition, or sorry, Imperial later. Not being able to run these units down is really painful. So I'll go ahead and fast forward again. Here we're running into the fallacy, I guess you could say, of, what is it called? Sunk cost fallacy, where I had wanted to make the attack earlier. We had pushed this direction. I kept calling for more attacks. And now this core is kind of pushing across a mud field too late. If he had pushed whenever I was engaged fully along this line, then he's not facing a formed up army or the reinforcing guard. Like, the guard was still here whenever I was attacking here, right? Now the guard infantry has arrived and they can't break through that. And like I said, Junot's infantry is rallying. So, at this point, the game's not lost from from our perspective. It's just we had a chance to win the game, probably right there outright, and quite decisively at that. Now we're caught into what I would say is a grind fight, having to think about where we need to go next, what lock we could take, because again, we abandoned almost all of the LOC, uh, all of the traditionally coalition houses, like this one and this one, all the way up here, um, in the south, to make this northern push. So now we've kind of settled into a stalemate for us. Our line is something like this. And we do have some guns here and here. Honestly, not enough guns to make a long-term attack, especially when they have all of these horse guns here. We did take out some guns in the center, but not all of them from Junot. And there's still, more guns coming up. Old Guard 12s. Schwarzenberg has a number of batteries as well that are quite strong. So overall, we're down on artillery. We went for a blitzy type of army, and now we're stuck in a what do we do next? We took some losses in terms of cavalry as well, which we do need our cav in order to run down the enemy, especially in low point games like this. But you don't want to oversink cavalry, otherwise you won't have enough infantry to make the attack. So now we're kind of thinking, what if we push towards still Villa Moyenne, with what's left of Toutchkov, and bring Chain's Core, which is around here still, with me. At the time, our thinking was that we would be better off with Chain and I making a combined attack versus using one of the randoms that we had subbing in for us. Mostly because Chain and I had played a lot of games together, so in theory, any attack that we make would be a little bit better coordinated than the attack that I just did alone, where I felt that I could win, but no one else was moving their armies. So now we're kind of going for another gamble, I would say. At this point, we're gambling. We're not actually playing a strategic game. And the gamble is that we can still push through to Villa Moyenne and then turn south and, take some of the other lock down here. Thinking about it long term after we had finished the game, the obvious solution was that Chain just turns back down to the south and we turn this into a southern push. We vacate this area, pull back towards towards Fontenelle. So we would take Fontenelle if you're looking at the minimap, take Le Creno, and then take Marche. And by repositioning our cores back to the south, we had the speed to do it. Whatever's left of my core could probably have taken Fontenelle and held it, and then everything else gets dragged to south. And the idea there would be that, these cores are set up now. We can't really push this as easily, and the amount of weight of guns and infantry stacked and terrain disadvantages and things like that don't bode well for us pushing here. And same with over here. So if we push down this way, then Imperial is able to cut our line of communication, if you kind of look briefly. So like, if our lines go this way, Imperial could counterattack this direction, and then we're getting attacked in the rear while we're trying to push in. And for obvious reasons, that's not a very strong or sound strategic move, but we did it anyways. And in game, it's somewhat difficult to make those on-the-fly moves. For me, I was just so frustrated that I thought we had definitively won the game early on, and it had not been finished the way that I thought. I'll go and do 3 speed fast, because right now you can see Chain's army is redeploying. I'm using what's left of my L5s and my horse guns to try and kite out this area over here to see what type of defense that they have. The idea was if they see my infantry way out here, they'll know that Villemoyen is under attack and hopefully draw units away towards this side. And as you can see from their formation, they did not take that bait. They do know that Villemoyen is under attack, but they hold a pretty good defensive line with very few units, while still maintaining excessive amounts of things in reserve. Like the full guard is in reserve at this point. So I would say at this junction, initiative has flipped back to the Imperial side. They survived our initial attack quite handily in the end. Most of Junot recovers and is still here. I think he lost a handful of units and his artillery. So in the grand scheme of things, we probably suffered more, especially considering my G5 core is fairly bloodied to the point of probably not being able to make a large-scale attack. And they still have the guard basically fully intact here. Most of Victor's good infantry hadn't got engaged in that initial fight, so he has the ability to keep quite a bit tied down, especially with these forests and all of the guns they have available to them. I guess they might have forgotten about these other horse guns here, or they might have bugged. It looks like they're missing a carriage. So lots and lots of guns. Not a lot for us to do against it, especially with the few batteries that we do have. I believe now we have Steinheil here, and his reserve infantry just taking artillery shots. This, I believe, is parts of 2nd Division Tormossov, and then, or it might actually be all of Chain's army. Either way, the idea was we were going to try and just break through to Villemoyen, as mentioned. We'll try to fast forward again. There's a lot of dead space in this game because we were really grinding the hamster wheels to try and figure out how to win this game after we somewhat threw it there in the mid game. And because we were seeing red, I think I made the incorrect choice of attacking Villemoyen. As mentioned, the strategic choice probably would have been to pull back towards Fontenelle, as mentioned, and then take the south. We had speed advantage for sure. My core is L5, L4. Chain was L3, L4 with some L5s. 2nd Division is, I believe, L3, L4. So overall, we had the ability to do something there. They're just trying to get a little bit of a scout. Maybe clear away some of those skirmishers. And the guard cav is hidden, so there's no Russian cav over here to be able to spot a lot of this this movement unscouted. Schwarzenberg has his reserves prepared. They were able to scout that movement this direction, so I think, you know, they're well aware of the situation overall. We don't have that level of information. We don't know what's left over here, and Shane and I had an inkling, you know, there's Schwarzenberg infantry, there's a couple Junot infantry, not all of it well aware. We did know that these guns were here, but again, not too sure about the whole situation. Servants dying somehow. I think they maybe had charged a square or something. I didn't get to see it, but pretty painful. So Guard is now attacking with full strength. Victor probably will also assist in this attack when it comes time. Guard 12's here, like, pretty painful gun-wise. Also painful for us, 6 guns. Chain is attacking along this corridor, and I'm attacking along this corridor. As you can see, the terrain is not really great for us, especially on the offensive. This side here is basically zoned for cav because of the mud field, and this center space is zoned by these batteries here. And then this side is also hemmed in by a mud field, and I'm coming out of a tree line straight into guns. So at this point, you know, this is a Hail Mary. We've committed to this attack. We repositioned ourselves and felt this was it, you know, like we just had to go for it. That we had no other solutions available to us. So mass cav blitz through the middle, try to get the guns, just to clean it up, to make sure that the infantry bodies could make the next advance. Dragoons get massacred there. And also massacred there by this infantry. And the guns still stand. We basically lost all of our cav that we had available to us. Chain was right that, so I asked Chain to attack the guns for me so that my infantry could advance. He wanted his cav to support him. He probably could have cleaned this flank up if he had all of his dragoons, but either way, I think we're kind of hemmed in by this area and this area, as mentioned. The guard attack against Steinheil should be like a hot knife through butter, really. The benefit is Steinheil has artillery support here. But once Victor's infantry comes up, I think that's pretty much it. So our attack clearly not going well. Our units are just too tired to do anything, too small. Chain's infantry is advancing, but due to the amount of guns, he basically has to close in to melee, and we're attacking basically fresh infantry. It's never really recommended to melee fresh lines, and the reason is they just have too much mass in this current version. You really just can't get away from it. So Chain's army is disintegrating. My army is too small to actually attack any of these units. Like, that unit's probably at half strength, that one's at half strength. I charge over my own line there on accident. So this corner of the map pretty much collapsing.
We have killed their general, sir. Now they must break.
We managed to get Chain's gem there. He is standing in the open, and that's pretty much it for Chain. And I won't be too long after him. In the south, again, this is a pretty potent attack. I never actually got to see this attack in full, but there's not a lot that would actually stop all of this that they have stacked here. I'll go and fast forward again. Junot surviving. Schwarzenberg traded really nicely here, honestly, and you know, Junot's still alive on both flanks to support him. Some of that infantry probably would have collapsed if we had a more coordinated cav infantry play. I just feared the guns above all else for making attacks. For me, if you can clear the guns, then the rest of the the attack can sort of mobilize. But if the guns are still there, then we're sitting under guns at close range and we'll lose in the end. Either way, we shouldn't have attacked there. I'll go and fast forward towards the end. By now you guys could probably tell that we did not win this one, and it was another tally mark on our blighted record on this silly map. It is probably one of my favorite maps to play, even though we lose almost every single time on it. There's just so many different strategic and tactical elements that you can make. Sometimes we overthink this map because of that reason, that we've lost on it or tried so many different things. And sometimes a simple solution is better because most clans won't think of the crazy solutions that we've come up with. You can see that these Russians, if they were a little bit more dispersed, right? So like instead of being in this square boxy formation, these units could be like 1, and these units could be 1, and then you have reserves for yourself. And they are shredding this French line, or French-ish line, German allies. So if they were a little bit more stretched out, they probably would have done okay. These are, I think, are Grenadier Squirms, which are quite nice against cavalry. And those guns probably could have been saved if a new player-ish micro just missed that attack there. Not my favorite there. Actually, really naughty at the end. Pretty obvious cross. The first one, maybe excusable. Second one, inexcusable for sure. Not game-changing, but you know, always try to play as clean as you can. Chain's army, I think, rallied a little bit of it. My army is whatever's here, just the 2 Jaegers that are
Our
left.
men are running, sir.
This is all of Tormossov. As you can tell, he's a little bit of a newer player. Single lining. Yeah, like this type of line, if you're a new player, try to avoid. You want to have depth in your ranks if you can.
Our men are running, sir.
And the reason is if you need to pull back, then you have some units already set up to hold. And there's also morale bonuses for having units, you know, in this type of formation, multiple lines. You get flank secured and rear secured and things like that. It also makes retreating a little bit easier because you have units that are already predisposed to being in your rear. I'll go and fast forward towards the end here. Steinheil's crumbling, as more or less expected. It's the reserve division to me is like a paper army. It exists to look big, and if you have the ability to follow up another corps, then you know it's there for you. But otherwise, it's kind of worthless. And yeah, so a couple lessons to be learned from this, I think, gameplay-wise. We made this very decisive attack at the beginning. We had 3 corps here stacked against 1 corps that we were basically had broken, and a corps that was split like this along 2 sides, and having to reposition and form up. Having an active defense while trying to form your army is really, really difficult, especially when the front line is breaking. And then he's in a forest, trying to like hold on, right? Like stuck in these forests. In that case, the principle of don't let off the gas, I think applies. Chain wanted us to stop because he felt that there was too much here. In reality, Guard was all the way over here, and Schwarzenberg was all the way over here. We had decisive weight to make the attack, and we caught them strategically by surprise. We should not have allowed them the breathing space to make the counterattack that they ended up doing. Once things stabilized, we had time to really like sit there and think about what to do next, and instead of doing the smart thing, which would have been to maybe attack in the south, we did the dumb thing and continued to sink ourselves into the hole that we were already in. So some good lessons to always be learned from losses, sometimes better lessons than the ones that you win. Good job played, and well, definitely a good job played by the LB clan. Always fun to play against them, and yeah, so that's it for now. Thanks again for watching, and I'll try to keep making videos as I have time.